Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Ask David. Glorious autumnal weather, plenty of warmth, encouraging lots of fungal diseases and still lots of pests out there. But you've got some questions that you want me to answer, so let's get on with it. So first off this week, Abby wants to know if she can get some help with her gardenia. She says she waters it regularly, she feeds it with a proprietary band of indoor fertiliser every 2 weeks. She says it's in full sunlight and she's getting some of the flower buds but also some of the leaves going brown, and she wants to know if there's any advice that I can give. The key thing with gardenias is that they are acid loving plants, so they like ericaceous compost to start with, so they need to be lime free, and also that follows through into the watering that you're giving them as well. So if you use tap water, very often tap water has got small amounts of lime in it, so I'd be inclined to use rainwater, so put a bucket or a watering can, or use your water butt if you've got one to collect some rainwater and then use that to water. You should only need to do it indoors probably 2 or 3 times a week at most. I'd lay off on the feeding. I don't think that's really necessary, particularly at the moment while the plant is slightly under stress. And the other thing is I'd be inclined to move it to a position where it doesn't get sun at midday. Nothing wrong in it getting a little bit of early morning sunlight or late afternoon sunlight, but actually it probably doesn't really like full sun during the midday. So put it just away from the window, a position where it gets good light but not direct sunlight, and I think you'll turn your gardenia around, Abby. Now Jan wants to know about some advice about her acers. She says she's got some lovely Acer palmatum dissectum growing in her garden, the moundish forming ones. She says they're brilliant, but the light that gets through them encourages weeds to develop underneath, and she wants some advice about what to plant underneath those acers to help suppress those weeds so she doesn't have to keep ferreting underneath to get rid of the weeds. So I would go for a couple of things. One would be pulmonaria, which is the blue flowering lungwort. They come in all shapes and sizes really, with different leaf patterns but also different coloured flowers. There's blue predominantly, but there's also white, pale blue and a pinkish red colour in the flower. They flower early in the season and then the leaves last really quite well in dappled shade all through the rest of the year and help to suppress the weeds quite successfully. I'd also go for the elephant's ear or begonia. These have big leathery evergreen leaves, flowers early in the season, but they're really good at suppressing weeds and also provide a really good evergreen foil underneath your acers. And then the last thing that really is fairly ubiquitous but does really well in semi-dappled shade would be any of the hardy geraniums. Now these are brilliant, they come in all different colours, flower colours. I would choose some of the more compact varieties for underneath the acers so they don't get too long and leggy, but they will cover the ground and keep down your weeds. Joan's got a problem with her cucumbers and also her sweet peas. She says she's got this whitish silveriness on the foliage and she's wondering what's causing it. This is powdery mildew, Joan, and it's typical at this time of year when the plants are really reaching the end of their life. They get completely inundated with this fungal disease. They can also get it when they're under stress. Lack of water during the summer can cause this as well. But at this time of year, it's really because there's so many fungal spores in the air and they're looking for a free meal, those fungal spores, to develop into the powdery mildew. They land on the leaves and start to feed on them and the mildew just goes rife. Really, there's precious little that you can do at this time of year and precious little that I would do at this time of year. I just forego the infected foliage. On the cucumber, pick off as much of it as you possibly can if you've got any fruit that are still to develop. On the sweet peas, they've probably reached the end of their life and it's out with those sweet peas and clear up and tidy away ready for the autumn. So that's what I think it is, powdery mildew. Now Tom says that he's got some brown patches developing on his lawn and he wants to know really what's going on and whether he can do anything to help get the grass looking in good condition as we head now on into the autumn and the winter. It's really prime time, Tom, to get there out there and rake the lawn, rake out all the additional thatch that's built up in that lawn over the summer. Use a spring rake, or if you want to take some of the effort out of it, then hire or buy a scarifying machine which takes out all that dead leafy material that's built up in the grass. To be honest, it will look a lot worse when you've done that. But then the grass will gradually recover during the rest of the autumn and should settle down ready for the winter. The other thing that I do is spike the lawn, use a border fork to push down to about half the depth of the fork tines, just to open up and allow a bit of aeration into the top surface of the soil under the grass, so that the grass roots can grow really well. And also raise the height of cut on your mower. It should now be up at around about 2.5 centimetres, which is around about 1 inch long. Don't cut it any closer than that, because you'll put the grass at more stress. And that, I think, should help those brown patches to dissipate, and gradually you'll find that they'll repair themselves, the grass will grow in from the surrounding areas, and your lawn will look great. Now, the last question this week comes from Patricia, and she simply asks, should she deadhead her cannas? I would definitely deadhead the faded flowers from my cannas. I'd leave the green flower stalk on for as long as possible, because that will help to feed the plant and bulk it up, ready for the autumn and on into the winter. But if I was going to grow some cannas from seed, and they are incredibly easy to grow from seed, then I'd perhaps leave 1 or 2 pods in place that I could let start to turn yellow and then go on to be brown, die off, and then save those seeds from those pods to sow next spring. So that's what I'd do, Patricia. Hope that's been some good advice. So there you go, another week's worth of questions answered. Hope it's been of use to you. Look forward to joining you next week for another edition of Ask David.